Okay, let's talk about it. Gentrification. What is it? Basically, it's taking a poor urban area and changing the infrastructure to a more wealthier suburban-esque area. And you can do that by means of like bringing in new businesses into an area, and that in turn will bring in more customers. And what that does is it makes an area more popular, so more people are going to want to live closer to that city, which is going to allow the city to renovate the homes that are in the city. And what that does is that increases home value, and then bada bing bada bam, more things are implemented into the city, and then boom, you completely change the layout of the city, and you also indirectly change the demographic of the city too, because the people that lived in that city currently were accustomed to the economic system that was tailored to that city, and now that everything has gone up because of the new wealthier demographic that has been introduced, those people are displaced. In the context of Atlanta, the African American community is the one that resides in Atlanta, and the gentrification that is happening is a wealthier suburban white Americans are starting to move into the inner cities of Atlanta, changing the not only the demographic but also just like the layout of the city, or so it's been said. Me being a freshman in college, I grew up in the suburbs my entire life, so I never really got to see what happened in the city of Atlanta because I'm from East Cobb. So when I started research on this project, I had to dive into like the history of like what exactly gentrification was, what it looked like, and what it's done to the city of Atlanta. And I found some pretty interesting things out, but today I want to go see it for myself, which leads us into the topic of this video. Gentrification. Is it real or is it a myth? Now obviously I've already done research on this, so yes, it's a real thing, but the purpose of this is to go see what it looks like for ourselves. So we're gonna go see what exactly gentrification is doing to the city, and if it's really as bad as it's, said to be. So here's the plan. We are going to drive down to the city of Atlanta. We're going to go to a couple different neighborhoods that have been gentrified already, and then we're going to go to some neighborhoods that haven't been gentrified and see what exactly that looks like on both ends of the spectrum. And hopefully we'll be able to visibly see what that has looked like over the coming years. So that being said, let's get into the next segment of the video. Okay, so we are currently in Atlanta. Right now I am driving through Midtown. This is supposedly one of the most gentrified areas in Atlanta, among a long list of them. And from what I can see so far, this is looking pretty upscale, I'm not gonna lie. This low-key looks like a mock New York, if I'm being totally honest. Like, if you were to film something here and you told me the place was New York, I'd believe it if I was just solely looking at the ground. This is nice. I'm just looking around at some of the stuff that this is. But anyway, so we're gonna make our way to Old Fourth Ward, Home Fourth Ward, and that's supposedly still undergoing gentrification. So we're gonna go take a look at that and see if we can find some areas that are, they look gentrified, and see if we can find some areas that look like they haven't even been touched yet. Okay, I really should not have come out here in shorts on. It was really cold, but we have made it to Old Fourth Ward. That's what this place is called, not what I said earlier. And so pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to, since this is one of the cities that is currently undergoing gentrification, we're going to take a look at some dogs. We're going to take a look at some of the areas that have been gentrified, and we're going to take a look at some of the ones that haven't been touched yet. And so far, just from what I'm looking around and seeing, this was a pretty good place to pick, because you can kind of easily tell which parts have already been through the gentrification process and which parts haven't been touched yet. So yeah, we're just going to take a look around and see what we can find. Okay, so currently walking down the street of this neighborhood, and you can kind of tell that a lot of these houses have not gone through the renovation process. So I would say that these houses are probably anywhere from like 100 to 200,000, maybe 300,000, if that. And they very well could be for rent houses as well. But I want to show you over here that this house in particular does not look like the other houses. It's in the exact same neighborhood, but this house in specific looks like your modern day house. It actually looks a little bit upscale from what I'm used to. This is like what you consider a modern house, versus this would be like more of like an old-timey house, I guess you could. So yeah, just take a look at this. This is in a neighborhood where majority of the houses still look like, they did back in, I want to say like the 90s, 80s, 70s at that. And then this would be like a more modern home. This is all one house. Okay, so getting to a better angle with the house on this side, I would say this could be anywhere from like 600,000, 700,000. This could easily push like $1 million home, but it's the two sides on the other side, and then this being as big as it is in comparison to the rest of the neighborhood. You can kind of see, I guess, the plan for the land, if you will, of what this neighborhood could look like in the next 10, 20 years. I honestly wasn't expecting to find such a drastic example in this neighborhood, just because this is just where I parked my car, so I was just going to take a look around and see what the layout of the land was. But it's really shocking to see that even here there are pretty good examples of what might be to come in the near future. That being said, we're going to make our way to the main street now, and we're going to see what the business side of this area looks like, and see if we can find any good examples of the new influx of businesses overtaking the local businesses that have been here, and see what that looks like on the side of Old Fourth. So I had to cut the audio from this part because my microphone was cutting out, but here I am walking outside of the neighborhood I just came from, and I had come to the realization that this was right across the street from the Ponce City Market. And seeing this really started to put things into perspective for me as to why the area started looking more upscale and why there was so much renovation happening around the area. And as you're going to see me pan back to where I just came from, I'm going to point out the neighborhood that I had just came from and just how close these places are to each other. Yeah, the street that I just came from was this street right here, and right down that street was the neighborhood that we just took a look at. So now this is all adding up. And it's looking like this is the results of gentrification still playing out to this day. And here are a couple more shots of just the surrounding area of the market. But specifically here, you can see that on one side of the street there are houses that look like the ones we saw before, and on the other side you see more modern apartments which resemble the pictures that I just previously showed. I was also able to get a shot of another house in the neighborhood that we came from that was knocked down and was probably going to be replaced by another modern building. But here I'm just going to close out on thoughts on what we found. Okay, so I made it back to my car, and I'm going to be totally honest, I was not expecting to find what I was looking for so quickly. But I was also just equally as shocked to figure out that this is the same street that Ponce City Market is on. And we can clearly see that this place is undergoing renovations to upscale the place to bring in more people, because Ponce City Market is one of the more popular places in Atlanta, and that people come and visit like all the time. And that was really interesting to see that just right outside of the market, this neighborhood exists where it's currently being renovated, and the homes are being knocked down and rebuilt and gentrified. So yeah, we're gonna make our way down to City Hill now, and we're gonna see what that looks like, because apparently that place in Atlanta has not yet been gentrified. So we're gonna go see whether it's been gentrified or not. Okay, I really gotta stop messing up the names of these places. This is Center Hill that we're in now, and just driving in here, this place feels completely different from where we just came from. You can tell the entire demographic has changed, and just the overall atmosphere is not at all like how it was back in Old Fourth Ward. So we're just gonna take a look at this neighborhood, and then we're gonna take it to the main street again and see what we can find here. So these are what the houses look like here in City Hill. This is a neighborhood that we found, and as you can see, yeah, none of this stuff has been renovated. It looks completely different from the street that we were just on. There aren't even any signs of renovation out here, or any type of gentrification, like, at all. I'm just looking around at some of, like, the houses that I see, and they all still have that old-timey feel, like the 90s, 80s, even like the 70s. These are some of the houses that we're looking at on the other side of the road. Yeah. So that one house that we found in that other neighborhood that could potentially be $1 million home, there aren't any of those type houses in this neighborhood at all. Okay. Apologies if the audio is a little bit worse. I had to take my microphone out because it's glitching for some reason. But we're making our way to the main street now, and we're gonna see what kind of businesses we can see on the main road. But yeah, this place has a completely different feel than Old Fourth Ward. But yeah, we've made our way to the street now, so I'll show you guys what that looks like on the other side in a minute. So as we made it here to the main street, you can see that these buildings are a lot older looking, and if you pay attention to the skyline, you can see that there aren't any skyscrapers or anything like that here. A lot of the businesses here are like local community businesses, but if you take a look at this first building right here, there's a painting on the other side that reads Bankhead, which is the place that this is called by the locals, not Center Hill as it says on like a map of Atlanta. And here we have what looked like an abandoned motel. Again, no signs of renovation, and it doesn't resemble much of the inner city at all. All in all, I think we got some pretty good results. I was going based off this map that I found of the city of Atlanta and the areas that haven't been gentrified versus the areas that have been gentrified, and the areas that are in the middle of being gentrified. And the crazy thing is, those two places that we went, Center Hill and Old Fourth Ward, aren't that far away from each other. They're only like a 20-minute difference in drive. But it was crazy to see just how different each area looked as you got closer to downtown metro Atlanta versus the more outskirts of Atlanta, I guess you could say. But I think from what we found, it was pretty easy to see like the sheer difference in what each area looked like. But obviously there are some things that I would have liked to have been able to do, like take a survey of the demographic of each area, see what ethnicity lives where, what percentage lives where, and maybe have talked to some of the locals and just see what they had to say about the changes that are happening in the area. With the little time and little resources, that wasn't realistic. But this could start something that could be blown up on a bigger scale in the future, where somebody who has the time and the resources to pull can make that happen and see if we can actually see numbers, because numbers really are what prove theses, and we didn't have numbers. We went solely just based off of what we were seeing. But even then, I still think we did a pretty good job. So yeah, that concludes my gentrification video, and hopefully you learned a little bit about gentrification. With that, I'm signing off, and hope you enjoyed.